So what's the best way to practice focus? I mean, immediately I'm thinking of meditation, but you say meditation and people are like, oh, sitting and not thinking. Like, oh gosh.
Uh-huh.
Um, so what are some ways that you, in your programs, in your coaching, you help people train their focus?
Yeah, so everything starts with awareness. And so an exercise that I give people in my training is to always start by just starting to become aware of your focus and where it's being directed in any given moment. And so a way you can start to uncover that is you can set an alarm on your phone to go off every 3 hours. And the alarm can just ask you, how are you feeling? And what were you focusing on before you started feeling that way? Right. And so from there, you're starting to bring awareness around, oh, well, I'm feeling anxious. Well, what were you focused on? Well, I was scrolling through like the news on my phone. Oh, okay. So maybe we see how when you put your focus into that, it creates those feelings. And that's going to start to continue to perpetuate the reality you're living. Right.
Got it. So
Or
you're starting to like track and basically create data on yourself so you can look back and say, oh, I'm anxious 65% of the day or 65% of these checks. And during these times, I'm
Mhm.
doing activity one or activity two.
Exactly, exactly. And you can even see how your mind, it might be an activity or it might just be a pattern in your mind. So you might just notice, oh, I'm feeling regret. Why am I feeling regret? Well, because I'm thinking about how I should have done all these things in the past and I wish I made better decisions, right? And so you just notice, oh, I'm creating feelings of regret by continuing to live this cycle of things that I wish I could have done better in the past. So it's like activities, it's just patterns in our mind. And yeah, that first elementary foundation for everything is just awareness, is just to watch and view and become aware of how we create our own reality, because a lot of people believe that it's the events outside of themselves that make them feel good or bad. And once you start to do this exercise, you start to see how your own thoughts or the things that you're personally doing actually have the most effect over how you feel.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So the next question that I have kind of leading off of that is, okay, so the first step is let's spend, and is there a typical amount of time that you recommend people do this for? Like, do you say, hey, I want for a week, I want you to do this, or a month, or what is
Yeah, a
it?
week or two,
Okay.
depending on how well they can stick with it, how dedicated they are to the practice.
Hmm.
If you do it every day, 5 or 6 times a day, you could probably get it done in a week.
Okay.
If you're being inconsistent, maybe stretch it out to a couple weeks.
Yeah. And then, so what's the next step? So we look at, so what's the next step after that?
Yeah. So the next step after that, once you start to bring this all to the surface, you actually start to set the alarms again for another week. But this time, you start to just rewire your brain to start to participate in different habits. And like I'll get into. So yeah, keep leading me down this path, Dean, because there is like step. We can
Okay.
keep going with this. And
Cool.
this is basically step two of with your focus, you'll notice, okay, so I'm actually just in this pattern. And we know the subconscious learns through repetition,
Hmm.
right? And that's why habits, right? It
Yeah.
takes 60 days or whatever. We have to you have to have repetitions to build habits. And so the same thing goes for our focus and what we think about. Like we're funny creatures, humans. Like we have mostly the same thoughts every single day. So once after that awareness, you set the alarms again, and then you just observe. When you're focusing on what you want, you're going to feel good. So that alarm goes off. Oh, I'm feeling grateful. Oh, what was I focusing on? How grateful I am to be a father, right? Cool. There's nothing to change. Like that's a good habit to be in and to have that repetition continue. But maybe alarm goes off again and you notice, oh, I'm worried I don't have enough money. Oh, that makes me feel bad. I'm feeling anxious. Okay. Well, we use that opportunity to literally just swap our focus and we'd be like, what would be the opposite of this? Um, well, the opposite would be I am working diligently to make more money, essentially, right? Like, what can
Okay.
we have control over? So every time we're just splitting, we're just almost like just swapping it. It's the opposite.
Okay.
And so by doing that consistently, your mind, it starts to go from a conscious process to an unconscious process in the same way that your mind used to look for the things that are going to make you anxious or feel bad. It will start to just automatically swoop, just flip it itself.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's what you do for the next week is you go from awareness to focusing on what you want, because I'm sure people can resonate with this. When you focus on what you want, that's what you get. When you focus on what you don't want, that's also what you get.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're focused on what you want, you're going to make choices that align with what you want. When your head is in the shit pit, right, and you're focusing on what you don't want, you're only really going to see the things that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's level
true
two.
how true has that level of attraction proved in your experience?
Very true.
Okay.
Very true. Yeah. But we're still at the conscious level here. So you want to continue to walk this path. And so really what we're doing those first two levels, number one, it's awareness. Number two, we're kind of training your mind to get used to swapping these and being able to actually notice and make the connection between feeling good or bad and what your focus is. And then actually kind of training your mind that when you focus on what you want, you can feel good.
Hope you enjoyed that. Click over here if you want to watch another clip from the podcast. If you haven't subscribed, click over here to subscribe and check out full episodes on any major podcasting platform, full video episodes on the Better Man Podcast YouTube channel.